Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing a recap of the elections that happened Tuesday night in the states of Wisconsin and the state of Georgia. The two main elections were the Wisconsin Supreme Court election and the Georgia U.S. House race to fill the rest of the term for Marjorie Taylor Greene. So first things first, I'm going to start with the state of Wisconsin. Just to give you a little bit of background, the Republican judge Rebecca Bradley dropped out of the race. You can see over here. Actually, I can go to the market side here to show you. Rebecca Bradley. So Wisconsin's judges are technically nonpartisan, but Rebecca Bradley was more of a conservative Republican justice. She announced back in July of 2025 she would not be running again. And now Chris Taylor is the Democratic-sided judge, even though, again, nonpartisan, but the Democratic judge. Maria Lazar is the Republican-affiliated judge. And with that out of the way, the results from last night showed Chris Taylor, the Democratic candidate, defeating Maria Lazar, the Republican candidate, and boy, did Chris Taylor defeat her. Chris Taylor ended up winning with 60.14% of the vote to Maria Lazar's 39.86%. Now, if you were following this race, this really was not any bit of a surprise, as I'll be comparing it to the Wisconsin Supreme Court race that happened last spring in 2025, and that one there was a lot of talk about that race, a lot of money spent, and a lot of media attention. This one really did not get any, and that's because it became very clear very early on the Democratic candidate Chris Taylor was off to a very strong lead and had a very strong chance of winning. And boy, absolutely did she. You look at some of the areas that went blue, there's the usual areas in Wisconsin that always go Democratic, like Dane County, but it went Democratic 83-16. And Milwaukee, it went Democratic for Taylor over Lazar 75-24. Just to give you an idea here, we can look at the presidential results in Wisconsin for Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. In Dane County, it was 51.5%, 74.8 to 23.5 or 3.5. Trump did much better in this county than Lazar did. And in Milwaukee, 38.4%, 68.15 to 29.74. It was really no contest. Chris Taylor absolutely ran up the margins in Dane County and Milwaukee County, two areas for Democrats to win. They have to do very well. But look at the surrounding suburbs, though. Columbia County, very key area. I believe Donald Trump won this one in 2024. Taylor won it by 19 points. Same with Sauk County, 61-39 in this county. Richland went blue. Iowa County went blue. Lafayette County went blue. Greene County, very important suburb, 62-38. Going blue in favor of Taylor. Rock County as well, 66.8 to 33.2 in this county. Chris Taylor ran up the margins, including in some very key areas that typically vote Republican. Right outside of Milwaukee, Racine County and Kenosha County. These are two very popular suburbs that come up in election season as areas Republicans need to win, and depending on the margins, need to win by a pretty good amount. Chris Taylor won Racine County 53-47, which usually votes red, and Kenosha County 58.6 to 41.39. Massive, massive wins for Taylor. Also very important is the Brown County, where Green Bay is. This is typically a Republican county as well as neighboring Outagamie County. And though this is no longer the streak it once held, but Door County used to set the tiebreaker for whichever candidate wins, usually wins the state at the presidential level. And we saw Taylor ultimately actually win this county, so their winner was correct, 60.38 to 39.62. Chris Taylor completely ran out the margins. And you can compare that to the Supreme Court election back in 2025, which, again, Susan Crawford, overall the Democratic candidate, it was a lot of anti-Trump, the first really anti-Trump test of Trump's second term, but there was a lot of attention on this race. There was a lot of media spent on this race, a lot of money spent on this race. The Republicans with Brad Schimmel put up a very strong fight, and Susan Crawford still won this race by right around 10 points, over 55.05 to 44.95, and what was seen at the time as a Democratic blowout. And what happened? Susan Crawford did very strongly in Dane County, very strongly in Milwaukee County, and Susan Crawford won Racine County, albeit very, very narrowly, and Kenosha County by about 5 points. So what Susan Crawford versus Brad Schimmel ended up being last night's elections essentially was that with even better Democratic performance. That plus an additional 5 to 6% across the state. Now, Green Bay County voted for Taylor by about 13 points, In this last election, Supreme Court election, Crawford won it by about 3. So really, what this was a 2025 Supreme Court election with the Democrats doing even better. Now, as for the overall turnout, you can see turnout in this one in 2025 is a lot larger, roughly 2.3 million total votes cast, with the winning Democrat getting a little bit over 1.3 million. This time around, only 1.5 million votes and only 904,860 for the Democrats. So voter turnout was certainly a lot lower, but make no mistake, elections are as elections are. It's about all the people that get out to vote in each election, and without a doubt, there was a lot more Democrats motivated to get out to vote in this election than there was the Republicans in Wisconsin. So as always, with every election, with every off-year election, you have to ask, well, does this mean anything for 2026? If it does mean anything, is that Democratic voters seem to be a lot more motivated to get out and vote in non-presidential years than the Republicans. And this is just one more example adding to that list. So that's all the main takeaways from the Wisconsin race. Now we can look at the other race, the Georgia race, where the Republicans did actually win this seat. This is the seat that was held by Marjorie Taylor Greene when she resigned. Now, this race had to go to a runoff between the Republican Clayton Fuller, the Democrat Shawn Harris. There was a third-party candidate in the race as well. I believe it was Colton Moore. Ultimately, it ended up breaking to the runoff election when no candidate broke 50% on the first round. So it goes to a runoff, and Clayton Fuller defeats Shawn Harris 55.9 to 44.10. So roughly around an 11-point victory or so in this race. So Republicans win, and they keep the seat red at least until November, when it's going to be part of the 2026 midterms. But there's a little bit of a concern here for the Republicans. Even though the Republicans did win by a very large amount, about 11 points, let me show you this race in 2024, where Marjorie Taylor Greene won this seat 64.37% to 35.63. Now again, like I just showed you in Wisconsin, look at the voter turnout numbers. 378,205 in 2024. Only 129,334. So roughly a third of the district turned out to vote in this election, and I think the lack of voter turnout certainly made this race a lot closer than maybe it would be in a general election in a presidential year or a midterm year. But look at the margins in this race. 11 points. Marjorie Taylor Greene won it by about 30 points in 2024. So yes, the Republicans win. Yes, the Republicans avoid disaster in this race, but it's not too dissimilar to the Tennessee House special election that we covered in November. Yes, the Republicans won. Yes, the Democrat lost, but the margins in which they did is what is really important here. I know in politics the argument is it doesn't matter, a win's a win, but usually in elections things don't just happen in a vacuum. For instance, we could look at the U.S. House election videos I've been doing the past few days, and I have some more coming out as well, which is if the House right now on the generic ballot is roughly Democrat plus 4, that's about a 6-point shift from what it was in 2024. That's not going to just be in one district where one Republican district shifts 6 points to the Democratic side. That's going to be in close near all of them. So in a race like this one, where it's a safe Republican seat and it falls into the likely Republican category, what does that do for a seat that Republicans only won by, say, 1% or 2% in 2024, which there were a lot of those. There was like 15 seats that were decided by that margin in 2024. So Republicans, yes, they won tonight, and they can breathe a sigh of relief that one of their seats is going to continue to remain red through November, but they have to be really careful heading into 2026, because thus far, all of 2025 and the early results of 2026 are showing, yes, the polling shows a tight race, but the results in the special elections show the Democrats are the ones more motivated to get out and vote right now than the Republicans are. That could spell doom for the Republicans in November. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. It is April 8th. That's another, 4 months or so, or 6 months or so. It's an eternity in politics, but certainly Democrats are the ones that are doing very strongly right now. They have the momentum at this current point in time. So the main two that were getting all the attention, the Wisconsin Supreme Court goes to the Democrats by an outstanding margin, and on the Georgia House one, they go to the Republicans, but by a much smaller margin. There are a lot of other mayoral elections taking place as well, including the mayoral race in Wisconsin and Waukesha mayor, and it ends up going to Alicia Halvensleben over Scott Allen, 51.22 to 48.78. So this is a very, very close one that ultimately going to this candidate. I believe the incumbent mayor was a Republican that endorsed Kamala Harris, and then endorsed Harris and then became an independent and decided not to run for re-election. I believe the Republican candidate in this race was Scott Allen. Please correct me in the comment section below if I'm wrong, but I do believe Scott Allen, the Republican candidate, does ultimately narrowly lose to the Democratic candidate. Those are kind of the main takeaways from last night. If you have any other thoughts or comments or anything, please leave them down below in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, stay tuned. I have a new video coming out every day this week that hopefully you're going to find very interesting if you like this sort of content. For now, that'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a future video.